bring this in. All right, Jan, if you can give us
Don't forget to record.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Get that started.
If you don't, Jan will tell you to, for sure.
She will tell me. And I do have my little thing right here on the desk.
That's right.
So now that I started it, I can put it away. All right, I need to do some sound levels because
I just keep my Skype on like the auto level thing. Would you rather I turned that off or?
No, you do whatever. I need to. I think what I have is turned a little too high.
I didn't know if it fluctuated, on your end or.
I haven't noticed it fluctuating. No. I just noticed just then, and it could have been I pushed these, moved these buttons up a little bit. It looked like it was peaking a few times. But I have the recording, the main recording, a little bit lower than that, so it should be. So
fine. here's a early tune-in tip that maybe only Jan will see, but I don't know who else is out there. But so in my area, I'm noted. Most people know me for the abandoned photography and all that stuff. In my area where we just moved, there is a place called
Abandoned Brewing Company.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit them with some of my artwork and see if they'd like to put some of my abandoned art up in their place of business. So yeah, you look for things like this when you're trying to market your stuff, and then do it, because that's how opportunities come about. Yep. And so I'm going to be talking to them hopefully this week.
Well, keep us updated.
Yeah.
What does your shirt say? May the forest be with you. Yeah. What does mine say?
How to pick up chicks. Very nice. And it's a bear.
Bear picking up a little chick.
That's awesome. Yeah, my shirt was purchased for me by one of my students in the Arcanum. So we do this trip every year. I think I told you about it. And so I printed up every year that we've taken, which we've only done 2 of them so far. But I print these coins on my printer, and one is of I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's Maine.
Yep.
So we went to Acadia National Park, and this one's really exciting. We went to Wyoming, so it's a square.
Yeah.
But I print these, and then and I give them. We exchange gifts when we take these photography trips together. So me and 4 other people, and next year we're going to the Oregon coast.
Really?
Yep.
Are y'all driving or flying out there? That's a long trip.
So what I do is I rent a house for a week. So I'll get on like HomeAway, or I don't remember the other place that I do. There's a couple of different places. It's been a year since I've done one. We didn't do one this year. But I'll get on there, and you can rent houses, like a whole house, for a week. And so what we do is we set a budget. $5,000 is our budget for the week. And then so everybody's going to contribute $1,000 for the vacation. We put all of that money together, and I'll rent a house for the week. And it'll be like the place we stayed in Wyoming was like a $1.5 million home.
Yeah, you showed me photos. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. And so it's better than a hotel, because every morning we get up, we have breakfast together. We talk about our photos. We can share our photos at the table at night when we're done. It's really a great photography retreat. And so I'm going to see if I've got a friend who wrote to my blog and said, "Hey, I just bought 2 houses on the Oregon coast, and if you're ever out here, it's yours to have." And I'm like, "What?"
Who buys 2 houses and lets me have them?
He's a big software guy in San Francisco. So I'm like, well, that's cool. So maybe I'll, I wrote to him, and I'm still waiting to hear back. But if we can get the house, and I told him, we'll pay rent or whatever you want. And so we're thinking we're going to do the Oregon coast. I know there's a lot of waterfalls out there. There's a lot of beautiful coastline. So it should be really amazing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Now you told me about the one last year. It sounds like a fantastic trip.
It is, and I haven't opened it to the public. So I got a friend of mine who's he's a rich guy who lives in Boston, and he keeps calling me. And he's like, "Hey, when do you start doing your photography tours?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't." It's just it's weird for me. Like I have friends that go, and that's really comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be as comfortable staying in a house with like 5 people I've never met before. Maybe I would. Maybe it's just my brain that just says. But these people, I know them like they're family pretty much. So.
Yeah. I wonder if that if that's a different trip. That almost sounds like if you're going with strangers, it almost sounds like a workshop.
Yeah, and so that's the part of me that he keeps pushing me. He's like, you need to do workshops. You need to do this. You need to, and I just don't know what that like. Where am I going to find people who want to spend 4 days hanging out with me for $800 to improve their photography? I bet
they're out there.
Yeah, but I just don't know how to reach those people.
That's true.
And when I crack that code, because it'll just take time and I'll figure it out. I'll share it with everybody because that's, I think that's like a hard block for a lot of, that's my creative block to get over. I talk about creative blocks all the time. That's my tough one right now. I can't seem to get over. So
I am not a good marketer, so I'm not going to be able to help you with the marketing, but I wonder if you do start that, if you crack that code and you start doing those, if you will still want to do the others, because that may be a release, going with your friends where you can relax and be more relaxing, where I don't know, maybe with the people, there's a little bit of stress there because it's all, it's, if you're charging people, you're like at work. Even though you're doing something you like to do, there's still a work element to it.
Yeah, I agree. And so his suggestion was, why don't you just pick like 4 places around where you're at? Because now I live in the Finger Lakes, which is like, it's like home to me, but other people are like, it's an amazing part of New York. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Cause I'm like, yeah, you gotta live here, and
right.
They're like, I'd love to live there. And I'm like, oh, all right. But he's like, take 4 places that and he goes, just, have people in, do night photography one night, do landscape another night, maybe waterfalls, another night. And he goes, just set it up. And he told me, he's like, you set it up and I'll be your first customer. And I'm like, so that's cool. But, I want it to be successful. I'd like to take, 8 or 10 people and around, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get something going. And
I think often the place you live, you don't notice the beauty like someone who's coming in from out of town. Now, I think there's some places that everybody thinks gorgeous, even the people who live there. But I have a cousin who lives in Arizona, and when I was living in Louisiana, she came and visited us in Louisiana, and thought that the marsh and all that kind of stuff was just gorgeous. And I said, "What are you talking about? It's trash. It's awful." And then when I went and visited her out in Arizona, and I thought the desert and the cactus and all this, oh my God, this stuff is gorgeous. And she had
she
the
was
opposite
like, "What a
view.
pain in the ass."
Yeah. So there are places that, like I'm saying, I think if you live in New Zealand or Iceland or a number of other places that you probably live there, think is gorgeous, but. Many other places I can see that.
Grass is always greener on the other side.
Yes, that's what it is.
So you saw the photo of the boathouses that I posted. I think you saw it on Twitter. That's 12 minutes from my house. I mean, that's the lake. That's where I live. Nice. So it's like, and that's what the scenery is there. I've got, I think I have a photo coming out this week. That's a sailboat from down there, and it's just, there's sailboats and there's boats and people watching, and I don't know. So I got to set it up. It's just me and my getting over the roadblock of thinking that why would anybody think this is fun, So. But,
I can see that.
We'll get it figured out.
Well, I moved my youngest into the dorm, back into the dorm.
Yeah, how did that go?
Went actually okay. Went okay. And my oldest just left about 30 minutes ago to head back. So classes start tomorrow for them. The oldest.
So you're on a trial empty nest right now.
Yeah. So last year the youngest was in college. So this is we're back to that. He just came home for the summer. He didn't have summer classes. The older one did, but they finished in July, so he's been home for a while. Now they're back. So
they just keep coming back. Mike.
Yes, and then the oldest hopefully graduates with a second degree next May, and then hopefully gets a job, and then is on his own.
What's he studying?
His undergrad, his first degree was accounting, But so like his dad's. But in
Like that.
an accounting, if you want to become a CPA, I am not a CPA, but if you want to get the CPA, you got to have 150 hours of class, and
Yeah.
an undergrad's only 123.
Yep.
So many people go and get another degree or get a master's or whatever. So he's getting a finance degree now, and then he'll be done. Be able to go get a job, make money, and get off my payroll. All right, it looks like we are coming to the end. Let me get rid of, no, not that. Let me get rid of that. And we'll wait for Facebook to catch up.
Good old Facebook.
Once Facebook comes on, we can start.
So I see to see your screen. I can actually adjust my quickly adjust my picture here.
Ah, there's a little more light.
Yeah, the trying to get there it goes. I'm using new software from Logitech that every program is different. So it's like, do I have a profile set up for this or not?
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Sure.
All right, this is jpeg2RAW photo review number 32. And tonight we're moving to a new month. We're moving to June. So we're slowly catching up there, AD. Slowly catching up. Before we start, let's do what we always do, go over how to enter. And two ways. You can go to jpeg2RAW/contest. Click on one of the buttons. Again, this month is going to be, where am I going? Right? That way. Nope. That way. There you go. Again, this month is going to be open for August. And you can do either the regular group or the beginners group. And if you're in Facebook, the easiest way, I know not everybody's in Facebook. If you're in Facebook, the easiest way is right down at the links below, or the links directly into our Facebook group, where you can enter that way. And the post with the album is always pinned to the top of the group. So you just go out there, find it, enter that way, or you can upload them here. If you upload them from our website, there is a 2 meg limit. So you do need to shrink the file a little bit to get it to fit down to 2 meg. To upload it. If you have trouble with that, email me at podcast@jpeg2RAW, and I will help you with it and find a way around it for you if you need help. Also, let's do one more thing. If you want to subscribe to the show, go over to jpeg2RAW/subscribe, and you can have all the ways there to subscribe on iTunes, large and small, video, large and small, YouTube, and Vimeo. Easiest if you're watching us live right now on YouTube is just to subscribe and click that little bell so you get the alert, and then you can see when we go live and see when I post it. All right.
Cool.
So we got it out of the way on how to enter.
Enter,
yes. And I should say that there was a lot of entries for June. So if we don't go over your image tonight, don't worry. We're actually going to do two more of just June. So we got quite a few to go over. So I'm splitting them in threes. So don't worry if we don't do yours tonight. All right, AD, let's get right into it and get to the first image.
I just want to mention too, like, show 32 is finally reached my age, 32.
Wow. You're 32?
I'm kidding. No, I wish.
Don't we all? Or don't you?
I'm
and
perpetually
don't
32.
You and I. Yes. You had me there for a little bit because, I'm bad sometimes with ages, and I wasn't going to question you on 32.
I am really old. I am a lot older than you are. So
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Well, that's for a different. Yes. It does suck getting old. It does suck getting old. But, we get more knowledge, AD, as we go
Sure.
older.
All right. Well, all right.
All right, so let's get to the first image, and this one is from Norman Schultz. And Norman says, going macro, and he went macro with a Tamron 18-400.
Wow.
Yeah. He says he loves the water drops, and we're doing the beginners group right now. I should say we're going to do 3 in the beginners group. So this is from the beginners group. Love the little water drops on the ends of the needles. Trying testing to see what the Tamron is capable of. ISO 400. He gives us some stats there. Yeah. He's about 3 feet away, maybe less.
Okay.
And
cool.
I guess this is, what does he say? I guess it's like pine needles or something.
Yep.
A little new growth from pine needles. So, you know, I like this one from a standpoint of the colors and everything. I'm
Yep.
having trouble focusing on what is the thing to focus on.
Exactly. So the reason why that's happening is because in the center of the focus, in the center of the photo, we're kind of out of focus because it's the back part of the actual needles, and then the needles are sticking out at us, so it's making kind of a ring,
Yeah.
and that's causing our eyes to kind of dart around the photo. So yeah, I like the colors too. I'm with you on that. I think that's very cool. The processing that he did, it has a very fresh look to it. That light green is awesome. Let's talk about since it's in the beginner group, and I want to go through these quick because we've got three weeks of this and a lot of stuff to cover. Norman, awesome that you're experimenting. Let me give you a couple of hints with the lens that you're using and the way that you're using it. So you have a Tamron 18-400, and you shot this at 225 millimeters at 1/25th of a second, which is a little slow for, usually the rule is 1 over whatever the millimeters is. So for a steady shot, now you did really well. It might have been on a tripod and then it doesn't matter. But if you're handheld, you would have want to have that at 1/200th of a second to make sure you didn't have any blurries in there. And I mentioned that because at f7.1 ISO 400, it looks like you had plenty of light here. I don't see any noise in the photo to speak of, hardly at all. I'm wondering if we could have gotten you maybe to f11 or f16 to bring a little bit more depth in. So that middle area that's out of focus, we could have seen that red area maybe a little bit more in focus, because that red and green looks really well. And then your water droplets, the real focal point that you were that made you press the shutter button, as I always ask for, that would have been a little bit more defined. So we would have had kind of an area to go to. So what Mike's talking about, and I see it too. I'm pointing at my screen. I know this doesn't help you, but if you look at around like a circle, you can see that the tips of they kind of go a dart around in a circle.
Right.
But then where your eye is naturally attracted towards the center of an image as the starting point, it's kind of blurred out, and there isn't a composition there to draw us to a point. And so if your focus was the water drops, I would concentrate on how can I isolate those water drops and really bring that out more so than just taking the picture at the end. Maybe you do more of a profile of this. So so you're on the side of the branch and it comes across the screen a little bit more. That's going to give us better depth, along with going to like f11 or f16 and maybe using a flash or bringing a nice LED light. If you're using a tripod, this is a really cool thing you can do. Bring a bright LED flashlight, which you can get for basically almost nothing these days. Put your camera on a tripod. If it's not windy out, they make a thing called a plamp,
From Wembley, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
So yeah, it's a plant clamp, and it holds the branch so that it can't move around in the wind, so you can take a photo of it. So you'd have it, your tripod there, and what you would do is maybe take a longer shutter speed. Now maybe we could get it down to maybe 1/6 or 1/8, but you can use that flashlight to put some light on it in different angles, and then you can layer them in Photoshop so you can get all the light the way that you want to on the entire thing with a slower shutter speed or a more closed down aperture, which is going to give us a bigger depth of field focus. Bigger depth of focus, not depth of field. So I think we need to see more of it in focus. I think that's really the thing here to get the composition right. So just remember all that. If you're handheld and you got this without any blurriness,
that's incredible.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
I find I know that rule is the 1 times the focal length, and for me it's actually a little bit more. If I don't have VR,
Depends on the day.
I'm finding that I'm getting a little shakier as I get older. So where I used to be able to do that, I need a little more now.
And a lot of people, you can prop your elbow up against your stomach when you shoot and stuff, but it's still pretty tough to do. You're still breathing. Your body's moving. You're thinking about focus. I mean, even if you move your hand to do focus or anything like that, or any adjustment on the camera. So.
Yeah. All right. Up next is this image from Daniel Sandberg.
Hey.
Yes. And, whoops, hold on, let me move to that. Milky Way over Howick, South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And without him telling me that, I wouldn't have known that because, the Milky Way, it looks the same wherever you're at. So,
Yep.
so that gets right into it. Mike, go ahead and say what you're going to say, and then I'll say what I have on my mind. Go ahead.
He doesn't give us that information. I'm thinking that he included that thing on the lower right-hand corner intentionally. For some reason, Daniel wanted to include that those lines of trees, and I don't know if that's a building or if that's what that is. I don't know that yellow streaks what that is, but I'm thinking and he somehow intentionally included that for some reason. I actually would like it if it wasn't there or wasn't at that angle. It's throwing me off.
Yeah. Well, angles, we've talked about it before. Harsh angles in an image give it tension. This is the Milky Way. I don't think we want tension in the Milky Way. It's supposed to be celestial and beautiful and kind of whisk you away into the stars, right? And so we got to be careful with our compositions when it comes to putting the Milky Way. And the Milky Way has been put in everything. I mean, you don't even type it into Google because it's everywhere. And the funny thing is a lot of the photos that you see of the Milky Way are actually composites because it's very difficult to film the Milky Way clearly as well as the foreground clearly because of the way a camera works. It's not possible to focus close up and far away like this here. His bushes and things are out of focus a little bit, and the Milky Way is out of focus. I dare say he's probably focused somewhere in between that, or he's used some sort of noise reduction on here, which you often have to do. That's made that kind of look a little fuzzy as well. I love the Milky Way. Love capturing it. It's a very daunting subject without knowing the technical high-end stuff that you have to do. I've shot it several times, and I usually shoot my foreground separate from the Milky Way and then composite the two together because you need to get a lot of light into the camera fast for the Milky Way. The rule is a 20-second exposure or less, which is hard to do because light just doesn't get into your camera when it's dark, and it needs to be dark for the Milky Way to show up. So you usually have to shoot at with a f2.4 lens, or 2.8 lens. So I have like not a Tamron. I have a forget the name of it because it's in my bag, and it only comes out when I shoot Milky Ways. And it's going to come out this month, actually, because this is the month for it. But it's basically a 12 millimeter 2.8 lens. That's all it does. And it's just made for shooting star shots. And so what I'll focus on is during the day, I'll figure out what my focus at infinity is, which, mind you, the little mark that's on your lens, which you'll see on just about any lens. Let me show you. It's that little 8 thing there. I don't know if you can see that. There you go.
It's out of focus.
It's out of focus, of course, right there. It's that little thing right there.
Okay.
Looks like an 8 on its side. That's infinity. But on most lenses, if you put the little mark on that, it's not usually exactly there. So what I tell my students is to go out during the day and focus on something very far away, at least 300 or 400 feet away, and get focused during the day, and then make a little mark with tape on your. I'll put a mark across this way and put a line on it, and then I'll cut the tape. So that way I know right where that line. Yeah, right where it is. And so the thing is, you're in the dark, so you're not going to be able to see that line anyway without a flashlight. Other people around you are going to be annoyed if you're flashing a light all over the place.
Yes.
So this is just from experience. That'll get you your focus from far away. Then if you want to focus on the foreground, sometimes I'll shoot the foreground during the day and not move my camera until it's time to shoot the Milky Way. If I'm camped someplace, that's the way I'll do it. If I'm only at a place for a limited amount of time, I'll light paint the foreground using a flashlight. And I'll, let the people around me, if there's any other photographers around me who want to capture the shot, we'll do a 3, 2, 1 countdown thing and let them all get the foreground nice. And we'll use our flashlight to actually light up the foreground and focus on it, because that you can do, Milky Way. You can't light the Milky Way, unfortunately.
What, a flashlight? You can't do that?
Nope, doesn't work. It looks like two people in the lower part down here might be shining lights up, trying to make the laser beam lights. But yeah, so shooting the Milky Way, it's a lifelong study. I've been doing it now for about 10 years, and I still won't release my photos to anyone because I'm not there yet. I'm not getting it exactly perfect, and it's very hard to do. And you only get maybe 1 or 2 days a year to practice it. So, unless you're traveling around like, Tony did there and did the Galactic 50 thing. So,
And you have to be somewhere where there's not a lot of light pollution. Like,
yeah,
you can't be in a big city.
right. Which is, I'm blessed with here. I can do it off my back porch if I want to, but it's, you got to have clear skies. You got to have a lot of conditions have to be just perfect. So beyond all that, Daniel, I hope that helps you out a little bit. Yeah. As far as the composition goes, I think Rokinon, thank you. The man hit it right there perfectly. Jan hit it perfectly out there. Is that it's distracting in the corner. It's a bright spot in the corner. It looks like 3 aliens. I think that's cool. I think that could have been used maybe somehow, maybe tilting. And there might be something on the left that he was having problems with. I don't know. So without knowing the area, I can't really, all I can say is that maybe he tilted it like that because there was something on the left-hand side of the screen that he couldn't get rid of in the photo, and this is just where the Milky Way was. And, if you live in South Africa, then go another week, and the Milky Way will be higher or lower, depending, and if you're late, then you just mark it on your calendar for next year because, and I don't know, Mike, I've got a live stream coming up that maybe we can do together. Okay. I thought maybe this would be the first time we'll do something together, but I'm going to be talking about the 5 apps that every photographer needs to have on their mobile device.
I'd love to hear that.
And one of them has something to do with planning trips to get Milky Way shots. So,
very interesting. Yeah, I'd like to hear that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the next one. And this one is from, if I ever say you're new and you're not really new, feel free to email me and fuss at me. But I think that Harvey Arbor, is new. I don't remember him submitting before. Right. And Harvey, if you're new and you haven't listened to us before, or even people who have listened don't do this, but later we're gonna come across Millen's entry, and Millen always does a good job of giving descriptions and giving the why he took the shot. And later in Millen's thing, you're going to hear just a little bit about why he took the shot. So that's what I would love to have known here is Harvey, what when you came across this, what made you want to take this shot?
Yeah, we say that all the time when you're leaving a submission, especially for the beginners, because I don't know I don't know what your level is. I don't know. Maybe you don't know about lenses or the techniques and that kind of stuff, or maybe you're looking for help with composition or whatever. And this show is really you get what you give. So if you're going to give me a photo, you're only going to get out of it. My opinion is, and no matter what you think, Mike, my opinion personally, I can tell you is worth nothing. It's just my opinion, and you shouldn't go on that. So if you give me like, hey, I took this photo because I saw this bush growing out of the middle of this pond, and I just thought it was interesting the way the water was very smooth, and I wanted to capture. Then I've got something to go on, and I can say, okay, what did you get right here, and what maybe could you have done a little better? So I think that this shot. Let me talk about things I like about it. I like the color. I like the layers to it. I think it's got maybe a little bit too much background. I think maybe a little bit more wide open aperture would have bokeh out that background a little bit more and kept us really focused on the tree and the reflection and the beautiful water, because I think the true story here is like right in that lower thirds. I think that's great. And the reflection is beautiful on the water. There's a little detritus here and there in the water. I probably would have cloned some of that out because that's kind of a distraction. The log in the back is a big distraction for me that's laying on the ground because it's kind of a vertical or a horizontal line right through the other third. So it's kind of making a divisional line on half of your photo. Maybe moving this tree a little bit more to the left, keeping the horizon or the edge of the pond in the third, just like you did. That's perfect. and using a little bit more wide open aperture, and then this really would have become a piece of art at that point.
Yep.
So,
well, Harvey, thanks for entering, and we hope to see more entries from you. And next time, give us a little more feedback, so a little more why you took the shot, so that we can give you some feedback based on that.
Yeah, bring it on. I mean, and the more you give to me, if I can sift through it, you don't need to tell me like I was on vacation and that stuff. It's fine. But I always tell people, save that for your blog, put that in your blog or on your post. But for me, I like to know, like, what made you stop right there? What made you press the shutter button? And what made you process the image like you did? If, like add contrast or whatever, what were the reasons behind that? You should be thinking about that when you create your photos for other people to look at. You should be thinking, why am I boosting my contrast right now? Well, it might just be because I like contrasty photos. Okay, that's cool. That gives me something to go on. Now I know your style, so I'll almost discard that. I'd be like, that's what he likes. That's cool. Yeah. Let's talk about this then. So yeah, the more you give.
Yep. All right, that's it for the beginners group. And if we didn't show your photo, it's because we're going to do this over 3 shows. So if we didn't do it tonight, we'll do it one of the other 2 times. All right, moving into the regulars group. First up is this image from Drew Bryden. Drew Bryden.
It looks like Brian to me on my end.
Oh, yep. I think I have his name there on the thing that just came up online. So Drew Bryan, Bryan. So what I showed you at the bottom of the photo was wrong. It's Drew Bryan. All right. Or else I'm wrong here. Another Milky Way. He says, Milky Way photography can sometimes be a challenge with light pollution that is so prevalent in many areas. However, I will never forget the awe of the faces of the Japanese students who would stay with us when I was a teen. Most had never seen stars before, I guess because of so much light pollution there. Due to pollution. We are so blessed to have the stellar views we have here. I plan to return to this location on a clear night. Milky Way. This is a Milky Way over Martha's Vineyard that he took.
And there's a lot of light pollution here, actually.
Yeah, you can see it in the fork and out there in the background. Yeah. And I like how he's used the rocks and the pillars to guide us out there to the Milky Way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, Drew, make this into a portrait. Get rid of all the extra stuff on the sides. What is it actually doing for you out there? It's not really doing anything. The story is in the middle third of this entire image. It's just screaming to be cropped vertically here. There's not enough out there, or even a square crop. Is fine these days. I think that he brings up a good point about the pollution. And here's a good case of, again, where we got the foreground and the background. It looks like it's pretty well in focus. It's tough for me to really talk about Milky Way photos because I need to actually see the real photo and zoom in and look at it. Because when we take these photos and we show them to people, here's what'll happen. This happened to a student of mine, and I've told this story before, but I think it's worth retelling. A friend of mine met me in San Francisco. We went out on a beach. We went to this place called, I think it was like Shark Fin Bay, and there was these beautiful rocks that look like big shark fins. And we were there, and the Milky Way came right up over the top, and all my students were there, and they were freaking out. We're on a beach. It was great. And she came home. She was so happy. She posted the photo, and she never zoomed in 1-to-1 on the photo, though. She just did her processing on her screen. She never zoomed in on it, and she posted it. And then one of her friends was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. I want to buy this." And she says, "How much for a print?" And so she went and she told her, I can get it printed for you. We'll, set a price and all this kind of stuff. And the person was really excited. And she got the print back from the printers, and she got to look at it 1-to-1 and all the noise. And she thought the printer had done something wrong, and the printer did nothing wrong. It was just loaded with chromatic noise and all of these problems that don't show up on your computer screen until you go 1-to-1 and you see what it looks like in print. So that can happen to you. You got to be careful. You're going to get people who are going to see these photos and want to print. It's inevitable. It'll happen. But then you go to print and you can't print them because of the processing or the way the photo was taken, and it's not really reversible. Yeah. So you got to be careful with focus and all that kind of stuff. I can't really tell that, but I really think with this image, it's a neat thing. The lights, they're okay. I mean, that's okay. It's part of the story there. The pier is part of man's creation, and then we have the sky above it. I think that all tells a nice story. I think just get rid of the sides, which really are not really lending anything to the story here. They're just kind of there.
That, and for me, I think I would have gotten rid of the red light.
I mean, it does draw your eye right to it. Yeah. And anybody who goes out there and shoots Milky Way, don't just look at your forecast and go, oh, it's going to be a clear night, or it's not going to be a clear night. It says partly cloudy. Forget it, because some of the coolest photos I've seen with the Milky Way have had clouds in them. Mm-hmm. So if you go on YouTube, don't do it now because you're watching us. Go on YouTube and type in 8K Milky Way time lapse or 4K Milky Way time lapse, and watch some of the time lapses of the Milky Way with clouds, and they're amazing. Yeah. And anytime you add that atmosphere, it's going to make those lights glow in the background, but they're not going to be as harsh. I don't see anything wrong with the clouds being in this. I think they're a nice element, a kind of ethereal element there. But the red light does jump out at me. Mm-hmm. You could easily desaturate that light and just make it white. You don't have to delete it. You can just take the red out. You could actually probably drop most of the red out of this photo, and it still would be fine because you're still going to have yellows and oranges in there. So you could just put your HSL slider on there and take the red right out.
Yep. Nice shot, Drew.
Yeah.
All right. Up next is Millen. So,
hey,
Millen with this shot here, and let me read you what Millen says. This time the light, he calls it the light after every storm. All right. So he says, well, this time the light was just before the storm, but anyway, this was a walk I took at a nearby hill. The weather started to get better or worse. It depends on whether you're crazy like me and like to dance under the thunderstorm or prefer to be safe at home. I just took several clicks, and this was one of the results. The people I was with were scared, so I had to rush down to a safer place. Here we go. And this is the part that helps us when you take this. What caught my attention and made me click were the lightnings in the back. But when I got home, so that was why he took this shot. There was lightning, probably, you can see the storm here, there's probably lightning in the background. But when I got home, I saw I didn't capture any of them. But there was light that was coming down the clouds and was lighting the fields with the flowers. So you can see that where the flowers are being lit with that. And I think, if you're just hand-holding and taking shots, getting lightning is going to be tough.
Yeah, so the tried and true technique, put your, now do this at your own risk. Because I used to have a thing on my website, and I took it down because people want to learn to shoot lightning, they'll learn how to do it. There are triggers that you can buy. There's all this crazy stuff. They work. Radio triggers work. But I will tell you that the most tried and true way to capture lightning, and I've done it off my front porch, is if you watch a radar screen, when the bright red stuff comes across your area, wait for it to pass, then go out and look in the direction that it's moving on the map. So if it goes by your house and it's moving west, and you just go out and you look west, where that red spot is where the two fronts are crashing together, causing the rain and causing the lightning will usually be in there with it.
Right.
And you can point your camera up there and you put it, you set it so you can get a 30-second exposure, and you just put it on, put your a shutter clicker on there and just open the shutter and let it go 30 seconds over and over and over and over and over again, and you'll get lightning every time.
Yeah.
Every time. And it's the safest way because the storm is past. But it's also, I say, do it at your own risk, because lightning is one of those things that doesn't follow a lot of rules. So, or we don't know what the rules are. I'm sure it follows its own set of rules, but we don't know what they are
Right.
fully. So, if you're going to do it, just be safe and use common sense. But yeah, it's very difficult to just go out and you can't really handhold. I've been in heavy lightning storms, tried to capture lightning on my cell phone, haven't been able to do it. I was in a heavy lightning storm one year. I was in a parking lot of a Kmart. I had my camera with me. I was like, this is amazing. I stuck my camera out, took one shot, and it had lightning in it. I'm like, how? How does that happen?
Luck.
It's exactly right. But if you use the 30-second method and you get your exposure so that at 30 seconds in the storm, because it's usually dark, will look good, you're going to get these nice smooth clouds, plus you'll capture every lightning strike during that 30 seconds that comes down will stay imprinted on your camera.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But anyways, Millen, amazing photo. I love this. It's gorgeous. But I'm going to tell you, get rid of man out of this shot, because man is ruining your shot right now with 2 telephone poles. And I would immediately just clone those puppies, tell them to take a hike, because this is the wall hanger. I love shots like this. This is inspirational. It makes me want to be there, but I don't want to stand in front of those wires. I just want to take in that beautiful bay and those lights. So
and how the sun is hitting those flowers in the field of flowers.
It's totally great. And he, and this is, I mean, Millen's, he can take it. So I know he can take it. I would just remove those 2 things, the 2 poles out of there. There's the T pole on one side, and especially the dark pole that's on the left there, right on the border in those lines. They're very easy to remove. I would just clone those out and get rid of them. You can do those right in Lightroom or Photoshop if you have either one of those, or GIMP will do it. Or even if you load it into your phone, you can actually do it on Snapseed, which is totally free. So,
all right, very cool.
Awesome shot.
Thanks, Millen. Always appreciate you entering and giving us your good information. All right, up next is Christina Binge with this shot of a flower. Here we go, Christina Binge. She says, Rosebud, one of many, taken in my garden, messing around with natural lighting while working with flowers for more artful-looking floral images.
Gotcha. So yeah, and Christina, I think, has been experimenting. She shows up here in chat with us usually. I think this is a wonderful attempt, Christina. I don't think it's like the best photo that you've submitted, but I always tell people, don't submit your best stuff because we don't have stuff to talk about then. It seems a little soft in the focus to me. I don't know, Mike, if you're seeing the same thing that I am. And I think this is another candidate for portrait. And just simply, I would give the suggestion to move back a little bit, maybe go for a portrait composition here with more space on the top of the rose. So you have that beautiful dark green in the back, which is absolutely gorgeous. And the rose is perfect. I'd put that in, keep it in the center is fine, but in the lower thirds, give yourself that nice negative space to support your subject, which is the rose, and it'll be like the rosebud is reaching up to the void, right? And then that's your story kind of that you could go with. Other than that, if you've got a story planned, Christina, then try to think of your composition of how that you can portray that story with your composition. So I don't know that because it just says you were messing around. So I'm just giving you ideas to further your messing around a little bit. So.
Nope. All right, good. So let's move on to next image from Debbie Henry. And Debbie says,
"Look at that cool dude."
Yeah. And she, one of the things I love about Debbie is she usually has a really nice depth of field. I love that blur that she does. And she says here she's in the Canon 200 2.8. That's what's helping her with that. But she says mating season for alligators and lizards too. So that's what's happening here with this lizard is probably a male lizard. I'm not an expert on lizards, but I'm guessing it's a male trying to attract mates. And for me, if he's the star of the image, I would have liked to have seen a tighter shot on him.
Yeah, so let's talk about composition and lending to stories. So she's got a fence in there. So that's telling us that, it's not an urban area, but it's a place where humans are at, right? Because that specifies it. So these little guys are he's kind of showing off his colors right now. He's kind of wild, but he's also daring enough that I'm going to just hang out where the humans are, because I got to find my lady. She's around here somewhere. So I think having that in there really tells that bit of the story. I love the cactuses because that gives me an idea that we're in the Southwest, maybe somewhere. That really, is a nice feature. Her bokeh and everything, like you said, Mike, is that's awesome. But I agree with you that get a little tighter here. Maybe position those flowers in the back so that they're kind of complementing the, so it might mean you got down a little lower and a little closer. Mm-hmm. And again, easy for me to say. I don't, know. When I was in Yosemite, we had these little guys all over the place. And the minute they saw you, they were like, they disappear. You'd be like, did I just see a lizard? I just saw a lizard, right? But you couldn't prove it because you couldn't see it, like it was there and gone. So if these guys are the same, then it might be really hard for her to get close. And there's some tricks that you can do. You can position your camera in a spot. You can, remote trigger it with a Wi-Fi thing, or maybe just a shutter release so you can stand back a little bit.
Yeah.
With most animals, I've found that if you just stand really still, they kind of don't feel threatened. But if you move your eyes around, if you're flicking your camera up and down, one thing that
it's almost like if you move still, they don't see you.
Yeah, so it's exactly right. But one thing that animals see, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it when I do it. You see that glare?
The glare, yeah.
You know what that means to a lizard? That means that there is a bird of prey around.
Yeah.
That means a predator, right? They look for the flash of the eye. That's how they see that. It's like that. Their peripheral looks for that. So you got to be careful with your lens, because I know with birds especially, and we're at the end of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about birds. But okay. I know it's like with them, the minute they see, I know I go out and shoot. We have a great blue heron out back here, and the minute he sees that lens come up, his head turns right to me. And if I drop my lens and then pick it up again and that flashes once, he's gone, just like that. I have to keep my lens and not move it. And they get confused. He's like, is that another bird? Is that? They don't know, so they don't move, and that's your chance.
Well, there's safety mechanism is get out of there, flight.
It's exactly right. Yeah. So I don't know if these little guys do that or not. I just think I'm with you. Tighter is better here, especially if he's the star of the show. Make sure that everything else is just a supporting role. And right now, like the cactuses and things in the background, everything's bigger than him in the screen.
Right.
You just want to make him a little bigger. That's all.
All right. Thanks, shot. Debbie. All right. Up next is this image from Jose Matutina,
I think. That's how you say that.
And he says, hiking with the sun and foliage. Okay. I brought my IR converted Sony, and then he has using a fisheye lens. Let's see, white balance tweaks in Capture One, and then channel switched in Photoshop. This is at the Holly Gym Trail and Falls. O'Neill Regional Park.
Yep.
And I'm a fan of. I like infrared. It's a fun thing to shoot.
Yep.
Until you figure out how to edit and get the white balance, it can be a pain to do that whole conversion. But it's a fun thing to shoot. I've never really been a huge fan of fish eyes. That's just not my thing. He does a decent job here with the fisheye. That's not my thing. But I do like how infrared really, and he's got the one with the false colors. Infrared could be just black and white, basically. But he's got the one here with the false colors, where it's really making the sky much more dramatic and the trees, this pink color or whatever it is. I think mine, infrared, would have made those trees white, make it almost look like snow.
Yeah, I think you shoot with a 720 nanometer.
Yeah.
That's what I shoot with as well. I prefer the white. Everything green is white, everything blue is black.
Right.
That's kind of my favorite look. But the false color is interesting too. I have a friend who shoots false color once in a while with the 665, and it's a different look, and it's just IR is complete personal preference. And I've talked about before, I like to grab my IR in my wide angle lens just to go out and have fun, because the cool thing about IR is that you can shoot in bright daylight.
Yes.
In fact, you get the better shots if you shoot in bright daylight, but you also, it gets more light into the camera than a normal standard lens. IR is much more powerful than all the rest of the spectrum is to your cameras. So I can go out and shoot at f/16 handheld and still get 1/800th of a second and at ISO 100, which is amazing.
That's if you have a converted camera, because if you're shooting with a regular camera that you put a filter on, you may be middle of the day and a 6-second.
Right. And so, a little talk about that too. So keep in mind that doesn't always work. In fact, on most cameras anymore today does not work. Most cameras have a coating on their sensor that filters UV and it filters IR both. Both of those are eliminated from the bandwidth of color, so they can get a more pure color. And so by you putting a filter on the front, you're really not, it's being unfiltered. You're just making it red, really. By the time it gets back in the camera, it's unfiltered. I did that for a number of years and thought, I'm doing IR. And I wasn't actually, until I converted a camera myself, wasn't getting true IR. And once I saw like the actual IR in the camera, I was like, whoa, this is amazing, So it's definitely a fun thing, and especially if you get stuck, in a rut as a photographer. I highly suggest get a camera. It doesn't have to be an expensive camera. Get any camera, get it converted to IR, and just go out and have that in there and have fun with it. I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of the fisheye here, only because the ground is distorted. And with a fisheye, the technique is to get the sky and then get the ground plane to still be flat. And the way you do that is by lowering your perspective and bringing the horizon closer to the middle of the lens. Because in a fisheye, as you get closer to the middle of the lens, things straighten out. As you get to the outside of the lens, things curve.
That makes sense.
So by him getting closer to the ground here and putting the horizon, he still could have got all of that beautiful sky and the tree above, but he could have positioned himself so that the horizon was straight. And I think that would have, to me, it's a little kind of using the fisheye for strange composition, and I don't think it lends to the beauty of the image, really.
You mentioned converting cameras. So I took, if you have older cameras that, just a few years old or, 5 years old, like this is a 12 megapixel D2X, still a great camera. I mean, it is a pro body and everything. It's huge. But it's not worth much if you're going to sell it. So you're only going to get a couple $100 for it. A camera that's still really good. So I had this one converted to IR by LifePixel, and now I have another use for it. And for me, a lot of the stuff you're shooting is in the morning or the afternoon. In the middle of the day, you're just going back home or doing whatever and waiting. IR gives you a chance to shoot in the middle of the day.
Yep, it sure does. Yep.
All right, last image we have for tonight is this one from, from Daniel Sandberg. Just so happened I picked the two from the same guy, but we'll have more coming up. And he says, Durden North Beach sunrise. I love this photo. I like the tone of the sky and the silhouette of the chairs and everything that's going on there.
Yeah, I think that too, the two piers coming in from each side is cool. It kind of gives you that arms wrapped around feeling of a late summer day on the beach. I noticing a little bit of haloing in the photo. Daniel, this is by far much better than the Milky Way shot that you submitted. This is definitely tells the story of a summer's day on the beach. I think you nailed it with all of that. Just be careful when you're pulling your highlights down in Lightroom. Since they've changed some of the algorithms in Lightroom, if that's what you're using or whatever program, when you pull highlights down, it tends to make these halos between dark and light areas, which you're getting around this roof here. It just makes everything look like, it makes like it gives an artificial glow, which I think takes away from the beautiful starkness of this. It can also make a picture look kind of fuzzy, and maybe not in focus, which it is in focus. But it's one of those things that and if people don't know what causes it, like if you did an HDR here, HDR can cause it if you're not processing in 32-bit. 16-bit HDR is well known for having halos. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why I teach 32-bit HDR, because it doesn't have halos and it's very difficult to get them using 32-bit. So it's just one of those things that if it was HDR, I don't know as I would have taken an HDR of this, because if you did, you took like most of the dynamic range out of it, which I think is what you should have done. Yeah, it's the right thing to do here. The silhouette is perfect. So maybe if you have the exposure where that's closer to, maybe just try processing just that. If you didn't use HDR and you did do the post-processing and you pulled down your highlights, if you try boosting your highlights back up and then pulling your whole exposure itself back down, you'll lose the halos, but you'll get the same similar effect to what you're trying to achieve.
What do you think of the crop? Because this is a different crop.
Well, I absolutely love. I'm a huge proponent of panoramic crops. I think the wider the better. My monitors are all ultra wide here. I just think that it's a cinema crop is what we call it, but that's exactly what it is. It gives an epic kind of look to any landscape, and it can. Man, I've seen some panoramas of portraits and wedding photos that have been stunning, where it isn't a close-up on the bride and groom. It shows them, standing on a beautiful, veranda overlooking an old Italian city, and it's a wide, it looks like a movie. I mean, and who wouldn't want that for their wedding photo? That's
awesome.
So it's just, I think that that wider sense just gives us that cinematography kind of look. Do me a favor also, Daniel, when you're going through and checking this, make sure you always check for your dust spots, because there's a dust spot on your shot. So make sure you check for those.
Where's the dust spot?
It's exactly opposite the. If you look over on the right-hand third, about it's a pretty large ghosty spot right there.
Okay.
So yeah, it's showing up pretty good on both of mine. So
okay, awesome image, and he's going to have. I think he has another one that's going to be in a future show. I know Nancy, who's out there, yours is in a future show. So, like I said, if we didn't do yours tonight, it's coming up. Don't worry about it. We'll do it in one of the other shows. That was the last image that we had for tonight. But before we head out, let's go on over to this guy's page here. Whoops, wrong thing. Hold on. We'll do that again. Let's go.
Getting dizzy, Mike. You're moving me all over the place.
Let's go over here to the explorographer.com. And if you ever wonder what does explorographer stand for, what does it stand for, AD?
Explore, photograph, write, and repeat. And it's a little of each of those letters cut out of all of that stuff. And I came up with that after I came up with the explorographer part, so it was kind of a weird coincidence that it worked out. But yeah, and I just changed up my website a little bit.
It did look a little different.
Yeah, we're self-hosting our downloads and everything now, so I can better keep track of that. Something we can talk about on a future show of the unraid talk, as we like to talk about. But yeah, the big thing right now is I'm giving away stuff. So
giving away stuff, yes. So let's talk about that. Where would I go on the site? Because I know we tweeted about it on.
Right there, right in the lower left-hand corner, that thing with all the that, and you click on that thing. And it comes up with this nifty little box. Please don't let it take forever to load.
No, and you got to remember it's probably going to be a little bit slower because I'm doing a lot on my end. So, this slowness may be a little bit on my end.
Geez, I hope so, man. That is really slow. It's usually faster than that.
Yeah, all the kids are gone, but still, I'll refresh it again.
It was my site down. There we go. Wouldn't be the first time. Oh no, it came right up for me. Popped right up.
Well, while we're waiting for that, we'll go back over to us.
All right.
That way. There we go. So we'll come back to that. We'll look at this as my
that one.
and we'll talk about this one. So over on Patreon, if you're over on Patreon, I'm on Patreon not as a person. Not a patron. What is it? Whenever you subscribe to somebody, but you're not.
Well, a lot of people call it fan support, whatever.
Okay.
It's a patron.
I'm there as a fan. I'm there as a fan. So I'm there as a fan. And if you go over to thecreators.com over on Patreon, you have AD's page there. And I noticed I hadn't watched this one yet. Your latest one is easy focus stacking. In Photoshop and Lightroom. So I haven't watched that one yet, but you have that you just did recently. And if you want to become a patron, I think I said that right, of ADs, you have multiple levels. You can do anywhere from $1 all the way up to the ultimate $75. And there's no contract. You can do it for 1 month, forever, anytime you want. AD goes through here and tells you what you get. But one thing by being a patron is you get access to his live videos that you do, right, AD?
Yeah. The next one is going to be the 5 apps thing that we're going to do. So
very good.
Yeah. Next Monday, tomorrow. Tomorrow.
All right.
I got to get it ready for tomorrow.
For tomorrow, yes. So here is the Great Lightroom preset giveaway.
And it's not showing. What's going on? It's not showing.
What do you mean?
The entry form isn't showing.
Let me refresh. That could all be my. I've noticed this computer.
No, what's going on? There's a big Gleam entry form there. Where is it?
Are you seeing it on your side?
Yeah, but I'm wondering if it's a thing where I got to be signed in, and I didn't know that. That would be explained why we don't have a ton of entries in there. Let me find out if I sign out what happens.
Okay.
Just double check for you guys. I like to make sure it's right for you guys. So, all right, we'll go back there. Click on that.
While you're doing that, you are. When is the deadline? Is when? End of August.
Yeah. So let me just tell everybody: if you go to that post, which is the very first post currently, the one that Mike's looking at there, it's called the Great Lightroom Preset Giveaway. I'm giving away 10 copies of my Lightroom preset pack, which is 44 premium Lightroom presets that I design myself. There's stuff that I use in my photos and my processing, all sorts of stuff. All you have to do is there'll be a little form that pops up. You just follow me on Twitter, you retweet it on Twitter, and you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that's it. You get 3 chances to win just by doing that. And at the end of the month, September 1st, I'm going to be drawing those 10 winners. So I think it's a $19, $20 thing in my store. So normally, this is all to commemorate. I'm actually releasing a whole new pack. I've got them all done. I got to ship them out to a few people to beta test for me just to make sure they're working the way I think they are. But they're going to be coming out next month as well. So got a bunch of cool stuff.
So those 3 things, is it 3 entries or do the 3 things in 1 entry?
No, you do the 3 things, you get 3 entries.
Okay.
So you don't have to do them all. Actually, I think you do. I think they're all mandatory.
Okay.
I don't remember.
But those are 3 really easy things to do that you can go out there and do that. Yep. And just go over to explorographer.com and you'll see the article right here on the lower left-hand corner. Very first one.
I wonder why that's not loading for you, buddy. I have to check with some of my other friends, make sure it's loading for everybody. I did change some stuff. So, do you have a browser cache you can clear?
Can do
Can we troubleshoot right here while we're on?
I can do this. Clear that cache.
Yeah, I just cleared mine too. It might be an ad blocker thing too. I don't know. I have my ad blocker on my own page though, so I don't. Oh no, I don't. I actually have my ad blocker turned off for my page. That might be it. I might have to put that in the thing that if you're not seeing the form, turn your ad block. There's no ads in it, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can troubleshoot some more in post show.
Cool.
But anyway, you can go there. If you follow AD on Twitter, you can find it there too. And I will find out what's going on here. And I think we've posted it also on our Facebook page, so you can see it there too.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. So follow AD over on explorographer.com and over on Patreon, and then you can get access to all that. We'll be back, and we'll talk about it in the post show, but we'll be back either next week or the week after or something like that, coming up to talk about this, part two of 3 of the June images, show number 33. So until next show, keep shooting. Good night, everybody. All right. You want to troubleshoot? I don't know if I have, unless it's a plug-in here in Chrome.
What does yours say? Does it just say like it'll be drawn on the 28th and then doesn't? What's the little red thing on there? What
little red thing?
Says there's like a link below the September or something. What is that?
Right, this one right here says Lightroom preset pack.
What?
Yeah.
What happens if you click on that?
There we go.
There.
Now that takes me to this.
I wonder why it's not displaying for you.
Let me try I need to get my keyboard. Hold on. I'll try on a different computer.
That's weird. All right, well click that thing. I guess that's weird.
I need to get my keyboard away whenever I'm doing this.
I don't blame you.
I will that's not what I meant to keep in. Control A, Control C. What the hell?
Kick it.
No, I've typed it wrong. I'm going on my other computer to see what it does.
That's the main computer? Or
no, it's
you got your own.
Okay. So it's the one I'm actually talking to you on. And it's doing the same thing. I'm not seeing it there. So it may be whatever is happening on my end. So now if I click the Lightroom preset pack, I see the entry then. Am I supposed to see that entry this?
Yeah, it should be embedded right on the screen.
Huh.
Or it hasn't been getting a lot of traffic. Which is strange because it's their code. So I'm thinking that
but you see it when you go to the page?
Mm-hmm. I do. I'm going on Chrome though.
I'm on Chrome. I can go on IE.
I'm on Chrome 68. Are you on Chrome 68?
Let me see.
Should be, because I mean it updates automatically with everybody, I think.
Right. We're about Google Chrome. 68.0.3440106.
Yeah, all that ridiculousness.
So I just went in IE and I see the same thing in IE.
Why would that be? Let me
I don't know.
Let me try one of two things.
Maybe if somebody who is watching live, I'll put the link. I'll put the link. So let's get another checker, because make sure, let's start eliminating possibilities. Let's see if it's not me. So I'm gonna put the link here in YouTube chat, and somebody else click on it. Jan or DA7772 or Nancy, anybody who's got a second, click on that. Tell us what you see. Do you see what I see here, or do you see the embedded form?
I was a little surprised at how long it took to load as well.
I think that, and Jordan is going to load in Safari. So there you go, another browser. I've noticed during this show that computer was every once in a while pausing. And so I think the load time with your website was all on my end on that computer, because every other time I've loaded the website since then, it's come up really fast.
Oh, okay.
So the speed was here, not you.
Okay, so let's Jordan, it works great, man. Thank you.
Wait,
Appreciate that.
Jordan's already said?
Jordan says it's loading right in Safari.
What the heck? So, Jordan, you see something different than what I have on the screen right now. You see the actual form embedded in it.
Yeah, that's the big question: is if they're seeing.
And
I'll show you what I see, Mike, and then you can. I'll just share it with you. Share the screen with you. So.
And then Jan, you say loaded former for me. I don't know what that means. Loaded what I see or loaded, and I say I mean post show, not pre show.
All right, so here's what I see. If I click on it, I get it goes
there you
does
go.
that little thing, and then it does that thing.
Okay, so let me bring us over to AD.
Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't know.
That's what AD sees.
Yeah, and what Jordan sees too. So.
And yeah, I actually see the form embedded. So Jordan sees that.
Mike, are you some like sort of domain blocking or something going on?
You know,
like a whitelisting for Gleam?
It could be PF Sense that's doing it. That's one of the things I thought. But when I click on the link for Lightroom presets, it shows me then. So so it should have killed it. If it's killing it, if PF Sense is killing it, it would have killed it either time. So something else is happening for me. Jan, are you seeing what AD showing? Where when you click on the article, you get so what you don't have there, AD, is you don't have that link that says Lightroom Preset Pack.
That's because that's a code. That's embedded code that Gleam sends me.
Okay.
So I think that they have that there for like cases like yours.
Mm-hmm.
Where is there's a link there. I guess somebody would click on the link and try it. I would appreciate it if it said, if you don't see the form, click here. That would be what I would say.
Okay,
but
so
as long as those guys are seeing it, that's cool. I guess people who maybe run PF Sense, maybe that's the thing, is it's blocking Gleam IO or something, or some sort of code. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't think that. It must be something else on my end, because I think if PF Sense was blocking it, I couldn't go to the form when I click on the link.
And you see all of my sidebar stuff, right? Which is all embedded code.
Yeah. So looks like it's just me. Gary and Jan both say they see it.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for troubleshooting. So we know it's me. So now that we know it's me, I can play around on my end and see what it takes to fix it, and I'll let you know, AD.
I secretly found out that Mike's actually just blocking all of my website, and he didn't want to admit it to anybody. I get it.
No, I see all the rest of it. I don't know what.
Okay, we're off screen sharing. Hold on.
You can share your screen if you want. But
I didn't know which button to press now on Skype to stop. Which button is it now? Oh. So, hey, you're shooting birds. I had an idea that I wanted to share that I use. So you brought up the idea of putting the branch out, which I love that. Right. I'm like, wow, that's a
I don't
really
know if
good
Nancy's
idea.
heard that idea. I don't know if she was here last week. Hopefully Nancy's still out there.
Yeah, and so we had talked about, like, how do you get birds to, away from the feeder? Like, how do you get set up so all you do, like Mike was saying, is get a long straight branch or so and set it up so that it's over top of the feeder or near the feeder where the feeder isn't. And the birds, as they come in and go to feed, there'll be more than one, because especially small songbirds, they'll land on the stick and wait for the other one to finish, or till they're ready to fight with them to knock them out of there. And then you can get a clean shot without having the feeder in the background. One of the things that we did, Mike, was a little different. We kind of went long term. We feed the birds up until about June.
Okay.
And then we stop. And we have our feeder hanging over our garage, off the end of our garage roof over our garden.
Okay.
And as the birds feed, they drop seeds onto the ground. The seeds turn into the flowers.
Ah.
And we feed them sunflowers, small wild sunflower seeds. And then the sunflowers grow up in the summer. All the birds come back and feed off the sunflowers. So you
Circle
get,
of life.
yeah, you get flowers with the birds now too.
Okay. That's really cool.
So just another way of because we don't like to feed them during the summer continually. We kind of force them to go get your own damn food. Go down to McDonald's. We know you'll be down there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's fries in the parking lot.
That's right.
So I don't know if Nancy's still out there, but the idea that AD touched on that I did was first time I did it wrong is we have 2 feeders, and I took a big branch out of the backyard, had a bunch of leaves on it, and stuck it up against, kind of leaning up against one of the feeders. And the problem I had was too many leaves on it. Of course, there were dead leaves, but there were too many leaves, and the little birds were all being totally covered up by the leaves. So I took that out, and I put in really just a big stick kind of laying over that. And I kind of watched where the background's going to be. So where am I going to be shooting from? Where the bird's going to land on this stick? So what's in my background? Trying to control that as much as I can. And my idea is like AD said, they're going to be waiting for a spot to come in and get that. Or sometimes birds like to land near the feeder and kind of observe, is this safe to come in? Yep. and then come in. And if you do little branches, you're probably only going to get little bitty birds. If you do maybe a little bit heftier branch, you may get a little bit bigger birds. So just play with it, and it gives you a chance to take a bird that's really come there for your feeder. So it's coming for a natural event, but you get it in a more natural environment.
Yeah, and that's the great thing is, if you put a branch out, don't go out in the morning and stick a branch out there and expect there to be birds just to show up, because it doesn't always happen that way. It might, but it's a good thing that if you put out there and leave it for a few days without you intervening, the birds get more comfortable. Right. Then when you appear, they might disappear for a little bit. Give them some time, and they'll slowly, if they see you're you're not out there with the BB gun, they'll usually come back and hang out, and then you're safe to kind of move around and get shots. Birds got so comfortable with Danielle working in the garden that literally she could be within 10 feet of the feeder while they're feeding, and they just didn't care. So
yeah, that's good.
They just need to get used to it.
Our bluebirds were like that. we'd be going out there, and when they're having babies, we will go out there and put some mealworms out for them, and you can't even get back in the house before they're already coming down and getting those mealworms. Yeah, and the hummingbirds will eat. They will feed out of your hand. You can put a red cap in your hand if you've got patience to sit there, and they will. Every bird type is different though, because we had blue jays. We put out whole peanuts for the blue jays, and we have this ring where they have to actually pry them out of this ring. It's like a spring ring that you put the peanuts in, and we love the blue jays coming in. But the minute I set foot on the deck, even if I'm just sitting, blue jays have none of it. They take right off and don't come back. Very skittish.
Yeah. So they're one of the birds that I don't think that, unless you've got a long lens and you can capture them without them knowing you're around, good luck, because they just don't like to hang out.
They're skittish, and they're pretty aggressive too.
Yep.
So bluebirds, not to be confused with blue jays. Bluebirds are smaller birds. They're I like them. I think they're a nice bird, and we generally have a pair or two, a pair, not two, but a pair come in and have multiple sets of babies every year. The weird thing, something happened this year. They had the 2 sets, and sometimes that's it. Sometimes you just have 2. Every once in a while, they'll have 3 sets of babies. They started, and what you got to do between each set is you got to take their nest out and throw it away. They won't reuse a nest. If you just leave it in there, they won't have another nest. So you think well, crap, that's a lot of work to rebuild a nest, but that's their thing. So I take it out, and they came back. They started a third set. They laid 3 eggs, and we never saw them again. Something happened. Either I saw the dad, or a male bluebird, whether he's the actual dad or not, I don't know. But I never saw the mom, or female one again. So I don't know if something happened to her or what, but they've abandoned the nest, and now we got those, not going to make it. But It's kind of
Yeah.
cool. I've never actually seen them fledge and come out, but they will take them up into the top of the trees near our house after they fledge, and they stay up there for a week or so. And the parents come get food, take them up there, and then eventually they'll bring them back down for them and everything.
Yeah. Now, if you got so Jan's mentioning in the chat to watch your cats. The best thing to do is put Vaseline on your bird feeder poles, because it's not only funny with cats who can't figure out what the heck's going on, but squirrels are hilarious.
Yeah.
The squirrels take a running leap. They think they're going to make it up the pole. They grab a hold of the pole and just hold on it, and slowly, they won't let go. They'll just hold on it and slowly slide down till they land on the ground. It's hilarious. It's a simple Vaseline, won't hurt them, and it's just funny as heck. So.
All right. I'm going to, when we get off here, try and troubleshoot this. When I do find out, I'll let you know. But
Cool.
It's obviously something on this end. Jan, Gary, Jordan, Nancy, what was I saw Tim Foster out on Facebook.
Cool.
DAS7772. And anybody else I might mention your name. Thanks for coming out. We'll be, AD, when do you want to do this again? 2 weeks? Next week? What do you want to do?
Next week is my kind of birthday party thing.
Okay.
And
So 2 weeks?
Yeah, let's just tentatively say 2 weeks, but I may be gone that week too.
Okay.
It might be a 2 week or thing, but we'll see. But yeah, tentatively, let's try to get her done next in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Yes.
I will put a calendar out there. If something changes, you let me know and I'll just move it.
Will do.
Okay. All right, so we'll see y'all maybe in 2 weeks. Good night,
Cool.
guys.